Hey, what do you say, everybody? Killer Mike here, and today I want to discuss how to choose the proper character build for your role or playstyle in SCUM. Now, I have 7,000 hours of knowledge in the game, and I feel there are specific skills and attributes that you can sacrifice without worrying about them, and I'm gonna kind of go over them. I'm not going to go over every fine detail of the attributes and skills, mainly because you can highlight the attributes and the skills, and you'll see a box that pops up on the right hand side that kind of gives you a breakdown of each one. Now, what I will do is I'll touch on the importances of the ones that I think are super important for you to take, but I'm not going to go into every single one and break them down. And as far as leveling them up goes, I'll do another video on that, giving you the best ways to level up each one. So, before we jump into the attributes and the skills of the character builds, I want to talk about two things. One is your name. This is not permanent. You can actually go to the trader, go into the bank, and pay to have your name changed later in the game if you want to. So that's one tip for you. The next tip is when you choose your physical features of your character, I'm not going to get into that because that is very personal preference kind of thing. But the one thing I will say is if you play on a PvP server, you may want to think about your skin tone, because your skin tone can benefit you in certain biomes. And blending in with the environment when trying to run back to your body in a PvP server, it may be beneficial for you to think about what skin tone you have to blend in with like the dirt to be able to lay down and maybe camouflage yourself a little bit. So that's a second tip I want to give you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what used to be the best character build. What used to be the best character build is taking 3, 3, 3, 3 across the board, and then going over to skills and dumping the maximum amount of skill points into one skill of each attribute. Now, the reason that was beneficial is because if you take these skills and go through them, you have basic, medium, and advanced. And the difference between those are, with basic, you spend 10,000 points. With medium, you spend 100,000 points. And with advanced, you spend 1,000,000 points. But there's a caveat to that, because if you take medium, you can only take medium in one other skill, which means you only used 200,000 points to build your character in that attribute. So taking advanced gives you 1,000,000, but taking medium only gives you 100,000. And then when you take basic, that's 10,000. But if I add up 10,000 points in each one, yes, I have a little bit extra left, but not enough to get the medium. So realistically, you wasted about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, plus maybe another 50,000 to get halfway through basic to medium. So you have another 100,000 points right there, and that's it. So, 100,000 points, 200,000 points, or 1,000,000. What's your pick? Now, the best build for the old character was pick a skill and strength that you thought was going to be beneficial for your play style, jumping into a server and taking 1,000,000 points into one of them. I always took brawling because brawling was the hardest to level up, but a lot of people took rifle so that they can manipulate and control their weapon better. But the other ones were strictly running, medical, and thievery. Unless you are a demo guy, you took demo. But thievery is the hardest one to level up in dexterity, so everybody typically took thievery. So that was the old best character build. And in my opinion, if I was to jump into a full PvP server where I was just going to be non-stop battling, I still think this build might still be okay. Because while the weight system is a problem right now, if all I'm worried about is carrying the best armor and a gun, this build is going to be good, because what it does is give me the best possibility to lockpick somebody's vehicle. Now, jumping into attributes, like I said, Strength is super important because of the overburden system that they have added into the game. So the higher your strength, the more weight you're going to be able to carry. Now, with that being said, I will give you one thing to think about. If you take 3 strength, once you find the best backpack, the best helmet, the best armor, and have a gun to protect yourself, you have already burned up half your carry capacity with 3 strength. So it can be beneficial to run 3 strength, but you will hinder yourself from carrying much more than that. Because once you hit your overburdened level of being able to carry a specific capacity, you can't run. You can only jog. So that is the most important thing to think about in strength. In constitution, there's 2 things to think about. If I lower my constitution, there's 2 things that happen. One, you lower your HP from 100 to 80. And then it's kind of the reversed opposite. If you raise it to 5, you go up to 120 HP. But going down to 1 constitution lowers your HP to 80, and it takes your immune system way down. And almost every cut or injury that you have, you will get an infection because your immune system is not the greatest. Now, dexterity, I will read this one because as you can see in the box, it says it influences movement speed and action speed, including crafting, eating, and reloading. So basically what dexterity does is the more dexterity you have, the faster you do things. And the lower the dexterity you have, the slower you do things. So that's basically the main things in the attribute that matter in that one, but it's not that crucial. Now, intelligence, there's 2 things that intelligence does. One, it affects your squad size. So at 1 intelligence, you are only allowed to have 2 squad mates. That's you and a buddy. And at 2, you're allowed to have 4. At 3, you're allowed to have 6. 4, you're allowed to have 8. And 5, you're allowed to have 10 squad mates. So they go up in increments of 2. 1 is 2, 2 is 4, 3 is 6, 4 is 8, and 5 is 10. So that's the thing to think about in intelligence. Now, the other thing is the global experience gain for skills and of all attributes. So it raises the rate that you gain skills, but starting at 3 and going to 5, it's only a 10% difference in skill rate gain. And in my opinion, it's not worth taking the intelligence to build the skill over taking strength. I feel that having the weight, having the ability to carry weight is more important than having the ability to gain skills by just 10%. So that's what I'm going to say there. Now, going into the skills, I'm going to go over the skills that I absolutely would not take every character build and the reasons why. So in strength, there are 2 that I would never take, and that is because they're just too easy to level up and they don't offer enough benefit over the other ones. And that is handgun and archery. Archery, in my opinion, is the easiest skill to level up in your strength tree, because literally all you got to do is make a bow and shoot puppets with an arrow. And I guarantee you, if that's what you jumped in and focused on for the first 4 hours, you will go from no skill to medium in about 4 or 5 hours. So there's no point in taking archery. It's just too easy. It's too easy. And handgun, if I'm worried about firearms and in general, I wouldn't take handgun. I would take full rifle. Now, the only way I would take rifle and handgun is for the reloading features, because it does influence how fast you can manipulate your firearm and load mags. And that's really the only thing I would do and that's rare. That's rare. I would still choose rifle over every time, because Realistically, I'm going to use a rifle for players and a pistol for puppets, and except for like in the very beginning of the game. But by the time you hit your first town, more than likely you're going to find good rifle ammo, and you just craft you an improvised rifle. So even hitting the ground 30 minutes later, you're going to have rifle ammo and make an improvised rifle, use it rifle there. So rifle is more important than handgun, and that's why I wouldn't take handgun. In Constitution, the one skill I will never take is endurance. And the reason why that is because with endurance, almost everything you do, you level up endurance. In running, you literally have to be running to level up running. And let's face it, once you get a vehicle, you're not going to be running as much as you would without a vehicle. Now, you can level up running riding a bike, but once again, once you get a vehicle, how often are you going to ride a bike? But with endurance, you level up that skill doing almost everything. I mean, crouching, crawling, walking, even crafting some things, cutting down trees. I mean, just there's almost everything you gain endurance in. So it's super easy to level this up compared to trying to level this up. So I don't take endurance. In dexterity, I'll never take driving, motorcycling, or aviation. And those are because all you got to do is drive the vehicle that is related to those skills. They level up super easy, and it doesn't take much effort. The only benefit that you really have is with driving, because the vehicles are hard to start in the beginning. They kind of stall out kind of thing, and they don't let you start them very easy. So driving is the harder one out of the other two, but at the same time, I still don't find a benefit in taking driving over thievery, demolition, or even stealth. And stealth kind of sits on the fence for me. There's I may take it, I might not take it. But driving, motorcycling, and aviation, I wouldn't take. Now, this one, in intelligence, is pretty much every skill except for engineering and medical. I'm not going to take awareness, sniping, camouflage, survival, cooking, or farming, mainly because they all level up super easy naturally. And, awareness, all you gotta do is find items. Sniping, I can actually level up with rifle, so I'm not worried about sniping. Camouflage, you just lay in the grass. It's super easy to level up. Survival, you'll get from cutting up puppets and trees and crafting some certain things and stuff like that. Cooking and farming, and they're just time savers at the end of the day, but they're easy to level up, and they don't give you any benefit compared to engineering or medical. So those are the skills I would not take. But let me talk about the two skills that I will never sacrifice. The two skills I would never sacrifice is running and medical. Now, the reason I will never sacrifice running and medical is because they are very time consuming to level up. And like I said, you can only do specific things to level up running, and that is the same case with medical as well. So medical and running are two skills that I will never sacrifice. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. They are survival features. You can run away from things and you can fix your wounds. So two survival things that are super important that I will never sacrifice. I'm just going to leave those engaged and go back to the attributes. So jumping into the character builds, there is one attribute that you are going to sacrifice every time, and that's going to be dexterity. Now we're going to sacrifice dexterity every time because it is the easiest attribute to level up. Literally all you have to do is starve yourself. Keep your energy level below 50% and not have a bunch of fat in your system, and this will level up at its maximum speed every time. And every 3 hours IRL time, you will gain 0.1 of a dexterity. So that is the only attribute you will ever sacrifice, because literally within a week, if you play 4 hours, 5 hours a day, within a week, you will be at 2 dexterity. So it's not worth sacrificing any other things because this is so easy to level up. So with that being said, the first character build we're going to talk about is going to be directed towards the solo player and the lockpicker. Now, as a lockpicker myself, I personally believe that every person can learn how to lockpick with medium thievery. So with that being said, I think the best build for you to take is 1.5 dexterity and 4.5 strength. Going into the skills, obviously, like we said, brawling is the hardest to level up, so depending on what you want to do in your server, you need to figure out your strengths. But medium thievery, advanced medical, and advanced running, those are going to be that. Like I said, I would take brawling and melee if it was me, because they're the hardest to level up. But if I was in a full-blown PvP server, rifle and then handgun. So that is dedicated to the lockpicker. Now, with that being said, if I was in a PvE or a very casual PvP server where it was mostly based on survival, I would actually take this down to 1 and take 5, because it's going to give me the maximum amount of carry weight that we're going to be able to have. And like I said, dexterity levels up super fast. And I'm still going to be the one to take brawling and melee and as much thievery as possible, which is below medium. So, but because I understand how to lockpick, I would personally take this build. So the next character build that we need to discuss is, am I the squad leader and how big is my squad? If I am the squad leader and I have more people than 6 in my squad, because like I said, we're not going to be sacrificing intelligence or constitution. So if we're not sacrificing intelligence, we get 6 squad mates to begin with regardless. So if I have 6 squad mates or less, I'm going to take that 1.5 and 4.5 build, so that when I go over to my skills, like I said, that strength is your call, intelligence and constitution, we don't sacrifice running or medical. But when we get over here, I'm going to decide, who am I going to be assisting? Am I going to be assisting my lockpicker? Am I going to be assisting my demolition guy? Or am I just going to be a PvPer? If I'm going to be PvPing mostly, I'm going to take stealth, because I want the upper hand on players at that point. But like I said, am I going to be assisting lockpicking, or am I going to be assisting my demo guy? That's that. If I only have 8 members to my squad, I only have to take 4 intelligence, which means I'm putting the rest in strength, because strength is more important than any other attribute. If I have 10 members, then I have to take 5 intelligence. And no matter if you have to go up to 4 or 5 intelligence, you're always going to take engineering at that point. 1, because it's going to help you save the amount of resources it takes to build your base for your team. And 2, the rest of these level up naturally pretty easy, so there's no point. And then, like I said, just depends on where you're going to support your team as far as dexterity goes, and then strength is your call. So we've talked about the solo build, we've talked about the lockpicker, and we talked about the squad leader. Next, let's talk about the demo guy. If I am the demo guy in a squad, I am going to try to take 1.5 dexterity and 4.5 strength, because that is going to give me the ability to have medium demolitions. Now, with medium demolition, you're going to be able to not need as much crafting material to make mines. And making mines is important in the beginning and super easy to do. So making mines is what the demo guy is going to do in the beginning. And after that, he's going to be trying to collect C4 parts from beepers and getting you into kill boxes. So having the medium demolitions is going to be beneficial in those aspects. Now, I only have one more build that I want to talk about, and that build is directed towards the PvPer that has one job and one job only. His job is to defend his team at all cost. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is by taking 4 strength, because I don't need to really worry about carrying stuff, because carrying stuff is not going to be my main priority. Running around protecting my group is. So 4 strength and 2 dexterity. And then we go over here and we're going to go rifle, pistol, running because we don't sacrifice running, medical because we don't sacrifice medical, and then stealth. So this, in my opinion, is the PvP build that is going to be just protecting his squad, who's going to be running around trying to ambush or trying to flank the other squads that are trying to take out your team. That's the build I'm going to take for a PvP build. So with all that being said, let's just recap one more time. In the attributes, strength is important for the carry weight in the new overburden system. Constitution, if you lower it, you're losing HP and you become more prone to infections. Dexterity is the easiest one to level up. All you got to do is starve yourself. Intelligence infects your squad, but we don't sacrifice 3 Constitution or 3 Intelligence because of running and medical. In Intelligence, Engineering is the second most important one to support your squad. The rest of these are all easy to level up. Endurance is leveled up by doing pretty much everything. Brawling is the hardest to level up in strength, followed by melee. Rifle and handgun are the picks for PvP. And then in Dexterity, Thievery is the hardest one to level up and by far the most important skill as a solo. Demolition is going to allow you to support your team with mines and give your base a little more defense quickly, and get you into the kill boxes and get you C4 parts to go raid a base. And then Stealth is going to be just an overall feature to help you counter other players. Aviation, motorcycling, and driving aren't important. They'll level up on their own. So that's the attributes and skills. I'll say I pretty much covered everything that matters. Obviously you can tweak these the way you want to. I'm just giving you a baseline and trying to help you pick the right character. Personal preference is a big respect. I personally have my personal preferences, and I don't like to deviate from them unless somebody has a good reason for me to. So I encourage you to try things out and test out different builds and see what you like, because like I said, your playstyle may be different from mine, but I have given you the foundation of what makes sense. So you pick from there. If there's a question that you may have that maybe I missed something, or you have a different thought of something, leave it in the comment. I'd be interested to hear it. I'm always interested in learning and hearing other people's opinions as long as they're respectful. And if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And we'll see you guys with another one. I'm out, guys. Have a good one.